Yeah.
Madam, sorry to interrupt.
Please go ahead.
Sorry for the interruption, madam. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Let's get started. Thank you.
I request all of you to please mute. So we'll start on time. So to keep up with the time, as we have a lot of things, interesting things waiting for us. Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Sundara Medical Foundation and Can't Stop, along with the Rotary Club of Madras, Fiki Flow Chennai chapter, and the Inner Wheel Club of Madras, I extend a very warm and hearty welcome to one and all to the online panel discussion titled Give Hope, Save Lives, organized by Can't Stop to commemorate the International Breast Cancer Awareness Month and to raise awareness on breast cancer among the public.
Dr. Sivagami, is there any volume to it?
Yes,
Awareness program, creating awareness in primary Can't Stop, Cancer Support Therapy to Overcome Pain. An outreach program of SMF is a community-based voluntary organization dedicated to helping people affected by cancer. We provide counseling services in a holistic manner to patients, family, and friends. Can't Stop conducts awareness programs and screening camps through education and advocacy. As we are entering into our service, reaching out to the patients of lower socioeconomic background in 5 government hospitals. Volunteers along with social workers provide counseling services based on one-on-one and group counseling for the patients and their family members. Cancer Awareness Program. Creating awareness is the primary step in any preventive measure. Our Cancer Awareness Program offers free cancer awareness talks in schools and colleges where 2,000 students are reached every year. World No Tobacco Day. Being a strong advocate for anti-tobacco campaigns, Can't Stop conducts various awareness programs along with free oral screening program for different groups including auto rickshaw drivers, bus drivers, conductors, and metro workers. Sponsor a child. Under this program, cancer children with good prognosis from the lower socioeconomic background are selected and a sponsor is found to help with expenses for their medications and diagnostic services. This year, 2 children were benefited. Nutrition support. Volunteers and social workers make regular visits to government hospital and distribute Pediasure to the ICH children. Tender coconut water and bananas are given to cancer-affected women at Government Women's Hospital, Egmore, twice a week, amounting to Drug Bank. It is a corporate fund to provide cancer drugs to the needy. Can't Stop provides drugs to those children wherever necessary on a referral basis. Can't Swap. Cancer Survivors Workshop for Adolescent Pediatrics, also known as Can't Swap, is an exclusive one-day workshop organized for cancer survivors and their families. It is the first of its kind workshop in India that aims to enhancing holistic health of the young cancer survivors. ABC Exhibition. This is an annual one-day event for school students across Chennai, organized by Can't Stop for the last 11 years, comprising of various stall, skit, oration, painting, slogan writing, and quiz. This year, 375 students participated from 25 schools. Camp Hee Ho Ha, Health, Hope and Happiness. a 2-day residential program for cancer survivors and their families. The camp comprises of diverse recreational activities for children and input sessions for parents covering 120 people this year. Cancer survivors are taken for a day-out movie show every 3 months. A total of 200 people were taken this year. Festival celebrations. In ICH and Egmore Women's Hospital, various festivals like Christmas, New Year, Pongal, and Tamil New Year are celebrated through cultural events and sharing of gifts. Rose Day, celebrated on September 22nd, is a special day for remembering and sharing cancer patients' trauma. On this special day, CanStop, along with volunteers, visits cancer patients and gives them a rose to show our love, care, and concern, along with toiletries for patients in 5 government hospitals. This year, gifts worth 82,000 were distributed. One Walk, One Hope. To commemorate the International Breast Cancer Awareness Month, CanStop organizes an annual awareness walkathon titled One Walk, One Hope. 12th year walkathon was conducted on October 27, 2019 at Alcott Memorial School. Can Nest, started in 2015, aims to provide a comfortable home away from home. Free boarding and lodging is offered for cancer patients and their caretakers for a short period of time. 11,000 people have availed shelter with expenses amounting to 11 lakhs. Awards and recognitions for CanStop. Lifetime Achievement Award presented by Cancer Care. Cancer Care by Shri Tulsi Raman Silva, Director of Madhya Pradesh. Institute of Child Health and Hospital awarded CanStop for its remarkable contribution towards pediatric cancer survivors with special mention to Can Nest Home. It's been a great privilege working with volunteers, government hospitals, donors, doctors, and staff in supporting cancer patients over these years. Thank you for the immense support in bringing health, hope, and happiness among people.
That was an AV depicting the services offered by CanStop to the community. As a part of our ongoing services, we are conducting the online panel discussion today. It's indeed my privilege and honor to invite Dr. Vijayabhati Rangarajan, the founder of CanStop and trustee at Sundara Medical Foundation, to welcome our esteemed chief guests, our special guests, and the panelists, and all the audience who have logged in today. Madam.
Good evening, everyone. It's morning here, but good afternoon. Good to see all of familiar faces and lots of new ones. Thank you all for being on this panel today. I think it's one thing that gives me all the excitement is to all the work that the volunteers do through CanStop. It's been an amazing number of years that we've been involved, the last 24 years actually. And it doesn't matter, I feel, how many times we have this awareness program. Even if we're able to touch a couple of people in the importance of early detection and what can be done, I think is the encouragement and the power that it gives to each one when they have this kind of knowledge is so important. It not only allows the individual, but also the doctors who are treating to give the proper care and treatment, which gives us many more options that they can look into. And I think that's one thing that gives a better survival rate and is so important to each individual. So even though we were not able to meet in person, as we normally do, and have a number of series of events, we thought, let's continue doing it online, which we have been doing, I guess, in so many of our clubs for the past year and a half, 2 years, it's been going on. So I would like to welcome all our panelists, especially who have come to give a little bit more insights into what we're going to be discussing today. Dr. Bose, thank you so much for joining us here. It's, I'm not going to go through, I think Dr. Sivagami will give the actual introductions, but I just wanted to welcome all of you, Dr. Pritika Chari. I know you're another one who's always positive and as a cancer survivor, you're so important the way you give the message and how people are able to understand. I think that that's one positive thing that always comes from you. And we'll have another guest, Miss Madhumati. I think you have been involved in giving a lot of heartfulness, meditation to a lot of people. And I thank you for joining us today and how you have undergone also as a thriver, you said, cancer thriver. I love that word, thriving afterwards. And I think that's what Pritika will totally agree with you. That's exactly what each and every one that even as caregivers, that is what we want to see. That is how we want to depict. And thank you all for being here today. I see also our Cancer Care of India. I see a representative. Hello, welcome, madam, that you're also here today. Then we also have some of our distinguished guests who are representing their clubs because they continue to join with us. You know, the more number of people that we can reach out, I think the information that is so important. So we've got my president from Rotary Club of Madras, President Mohan Raman. Thank you for joining us today and saying a few words. I'm going to ask each of you to just say a few words on the importance and what you feel that we as individuals can do. Mrs. Jayashree Ravi is representing Vicky Flow members. There's a lot on woman empowerment that Vicky Flow is involved with, and I thank her also for joining us today. And Ms. Javanti, I don't see all the faces, so I'm getting a little confused and seeing only a few. Javanti also kindly agreed, the president of Inner Wheel Club of Madras, and I'm glad that she has also joined and her members have joined to give a little mention on the importance of early detection. All the guests that we have from Cancer Care of India and from all the other, there's many support groups that we have in cancer. This is a national body that is in Delhi. And I think there are about, if I'm correct, about 63 NGOs that are under the national body. And any information we try to share amongst ourselves, because as you know, many people are traveling in between the states. And it's a good way to connect and give information for what they need to do, where they need to go, and what can be done to help them. We also have our First Lady of Mrs. Punita, you're there? Mrs. Punita Sridhar.
I'm there.
Welcome also to the panel, because we just wanted to say a few words, and each of you, thank you so much for taking the time and joining with us. Can I give it back to you, Dr. Sivagami, and then we can go one by one to each of them and ask them to say words.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much, madam. I'm sure today's panel discussion is going to be very interesting and informative because we have very eminent personalities lined up. And as madam said, before we go on to the panel, we have also special guests whom we've invited to share their thoughts with us. On the row, I would like to first call upon the Rotary Power couple, Rotarian Jay Sridhar, the District Governor, Rotary District 3232, and the member of RCM Industrial City, Chennai, along with his First Lady, representative from the Rotary District 3232, Mrs. Punita Sridhar, to join him. And I request the couple to start off with sharing their thoughts with us on this special day. Over to you, Mr. Sridhar.
Yes, thank you very much for giving the opportunity on this nice evening, rainy day. And it's CanStop is really doing a great, wonderful job for years. And every year, the new news, the new awareness, what CanStop is creating among our communities are really commendable. I would like to congratulate the team CanStop and Dr. Vijay Bharti for taking this noble task around our communities. And from Rotary part and from my personal side, I would like to be a volunteer and help them in all their future endeavors. Wish them all a great success for all this event and as well for every program what they are trying to do this next 1 year or so. So I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. And I'm just asking Punita to have a few lines. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening to all the panelists and the viewers. At the outset, let me thank President T.V. Mohan Raman, Rotary Club of Madras, and Dr. Vijay Bharati Rangarajan, founder of CANSTOP, for having me here. Feel great to participate in this forum amid eminent people from diverse fields. Okay, my take on the breast cancer awareness is every October we see loads of information about breast cancer. But then, however confident and however optimistic a lady is, the moment you drop a word mammo or a breast cancer, she's down. So basically, I feel that every woman should really gather courage to face the diagnosis after the mammogram. And apart from creating a cancer awareness, women should also be given the confidence that she would lead a normal life after this. And many do not want to disclose malignity because they don't want the family to go through the emotional roller coaster ride. And CANSTOP is an amazing initiative to all the cancer patients, providing free screening and raising awareness. Apart from this, I would also emphasize on awareness of the breast cancer support groups. It was something new to me, where they can share anxieties with women of similar concerns and will also help a long way in seeking emotional support and maintaining a positive attitude. So my thing is, as a woman, as I represent District 3232, the first ladies, I feel the ladies should be given more confidence that they are going to be perfect and if it's diagnosed at the right time. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, madam. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. I think that's a very valid point. The inhibition, when it comes to ladies and their personal problems, the first thing which puts them off is their inhibition to go for procedures like a mammogram, especially. I think that's a very valid point, and we're going to discuss some more about it in our panel as well. Thank you very much, madam, and thank you, sir, for joining us. Our next special guest to address the gathering is Rotarian P.V. Mohan Raman, who's the president, Rotary Club of Madras, 3232. He's an actor who's acted over 170 films and 5,000 TV serial episodes, a very popular and renowned personality. And apart from being an actor, he doubles as an entrepreneur and a corporate maverick who has multiple other roles in retail and marketing while running a travel agency and communication center. Over to you, sir, Mr. Mohan.
Thank you, Doctor. At the outset, thank you, CANSTOP, for associating the Rotary Club of Madras for the past several years. We are happy, we are proud, we are honored that we are one of your partner organizations. I'd like to thank Dr. Vijay Bharati Rangarajan, our own past president, the panelists, Dr. Chari, Dr. Bose, Javanti, the chairperson of Innovil, and the chairperson of Fiki Flow, Mrs. Vadlamani, who's the cancer thriver. In fact, I'm going to call you the cancer conqueror. Why survivor? You conquered it. So it's more. To survive is just kind of, I've managed here somehow, I'm doing. No, conquer and then thrive. So I'm happy. Just 2 points. The first is very personal. It's that years ago, my mother went for one of those wellness checkups, and they found in a mammogram or an X-ray, they found a little shadow the size of a grain of rice, exactly a grain of rice. And one more thing I forgot. Sorry. I'd like to also welcome all my fellow Rotarians here who have joined, not just from Rotary Club of Madras, of course, my boss, District Governor, and the First Lady, and also several people from overseas. I understand some Rotarians from Pakistan are also in the panel. Welcome to all of you on behalf of the Rotary Club of Madras, CANSTOP, and this wonderful evening's panel discussion. Going back to the personal stuff, my mother, it was diagnosed. They did a biopsy. It was found to be, yes, malignant. And fortunately, after some surgery, followed by radiation and a little bit of chemo, it's been now, I think, over 15 years, close to 18 years, and there has been nothing. So this form of cancer, unlike the typical cinema thing where, somebody's got cancer, oh my God, he's going to die. And then they show progressively the man vomiting blood and then collapsing. This form of cancer, when detected early, is 100% curable. So why can't we detect it? Yes, there are many issues. Hopefully this panel will address some of them. From the Rotary Club of Madras, under the chairperson, when Dr. Vijayabharati was our president, she had applied for a global grant to the Rotary Foundation to get a mammogram for about 70 odd lakh Indian rupees. The global grant was approved. Then the pandemic came. So many things happened. Hopefully we should be able to have the mammogram up and running early Feb next year. This will be at the ACS Medical College, where we already run a free dialysis center with 8 dialysis machines, 8 beds. So this will be in the same place, available for people who cannot otherwise afford a mammogram. This will be free for all those who can show that they are in need of such an aid, just as the dialysis is free. I would like to say that the Rotary is happy that we are doing a little bit, very, very little bit. A lot more needs to be done, but if every single one of us steps in and creates this awareness amongst the ladies that they need to have this checkup done, because if you spot it early, life can just go on. 18 years ago, my mother's happily still with us, touch wood. She has seen the marriage of at least 5 of her grandchildren, the 6th one happening in a few months. So all this was possible because it was detected early. That was the key. As I said, it was exactly the size of a grain of rice. But if it had metastasized into something bigger, or it had spread everywhere, life would have been different. Happily, she went for that checkup. So I think Rotary as a community, we need to find out how many of the ladies in our homes are doing this checkup regularly. And if we can't motivate them, then we need to probably tell them that this facility has been created today. Go physically take them and have a checkup done. If we can solve this problem in our respective homes, if each of us does it in our home, I think we would have saved umpteen number of lives. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Doctor, and God bless you all for doing such wonderful work. Sai Ram.
Thank you very much, sir. It's indeed our pleasure to have you here with us. And that was a tremendous, wonderful experience to share with us about your mom, who's healthy, and laying emphasis on early diagnosis of breast cancer. Definitely self-breast examination. I think the take-home message of self-breast examination itself is the key to fighting against cancer. Thank you very much, sir, once again. Next, we have Mrs. Jayashree Ravi, who's the chairperson of FICCI Flow Chennai chapter. Mrs. Jayashree Ravi from Palam Silks is the daughter of the world-renowned silk merchant, Dr. Nalli Kuppusamy Chettiar of the Nalli fame. In a short span of 15 years, she has created more than 50 unique design concepts with Kanchipurams. Palam was the first Kanchipuram silk boutique that took birth in Chennai in 2003, and Mrs. Jayashree was the first ever exclusive Kanchipuram silk designer from Tamil Nadu. Let's hear from Mrs. Jayashree.
Good evening, all. Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful introduction. I first of all wish to thank Dr. Vijayabharati Rangarajan for giving FICCI Flow this opportunity. So we here at Flow Chennai, we are pleased to be a part of today's event, and it's aimed at raising awareness about the importance of early detection of breast cancer. And we are delighted to collaborate with CanStop in this battle to fight against cancer. Now, as the chairperson of FICCI Ladies Organization, I'm also honored to be a part of this initiative because we have two of our past chairs as speakers here, Dr. Vijay Bharati Rangarajan herself and Dr. Preetika Chari, who's also a panelist today. So I welcome all the panelists. Good evening to everyone and my respects to you. So October is a breast cancer awareness month, an annual campaign to increase awareness of the disease. I don't know much about the number of breast cancer cases in India in comparison with the rest of the world. But one thing that we have seen during this pandemic is how strong our healthcare system is and how dedicated the healthcare workers have been, from the topmost doctors to the frontline workers. Now, many of us will be familiar with this story. There is the story of this drowning man in that ocean, and he calls out for help. And a boat comes by to save him, but he doesn't get into the boat. Then a helicopter comes in, he doesn't get into that. And he even refuses to accept the life jacket that is thrown at him. And all the time, he's chanting this one line, God will save me. And finally, he succumbs to death. He meets God and asks God about why he wasn't saved. To which God replies, who do you think sent the boat, the helicopter, and the life jackets? So we experience the work of God in mysterious ways in several instances in our lives. It is up to us to gracefully accept the help that is sent our way. And as women, we are proud to take care of our families and homes. It makes us feel good to have them depend on us for all the little things, however much we complain about it on the outside. So many of us will have elderly parents at home, grown-up sons, daughters, and even grandchildren as well. And there's certain pride in leading a household with 3 generations dependent on us for our selfless love and care. But in order to be able to provide all this love and concern, we need to be healthy ourselves. So some diseases are limited to minor discomforts. Some take us through excruciating pain and are heartbreaking both for the patient as well as their loved ones. So God keeps sending us a helping hand every now and then. It may be a piece of useful information. Now, this event today is one such piece of valuable information, and the importance of taking care of ourselves, the importance of early detection of a deadly disease to help nip it in the bud. So we often don't want to do it because of one thing, fear, because of the what ifs that are haunting us. What if the test results don't go in my favor? So what we fail to realize is that we are doing ourselves the biggest help when we take these detection tests. Early detection helps us, it helps you save your life. And not just that, you also save your loved ones and the medical team that's taking care of you from a deadly fate. Now, I have a friend, Dr. Revati, and she's a pediatric oncologist. And it's painful every time she's unable to save a life. She says it's just traumatic. So let's just do this one little step, just as an empathic gesture towards our loved ones, to make it that much easier for these white-coated aides of God who are trying to help us stay healthy. For now, let us put aside this fear. A quick request to the doctors present here also. Along with this drive to bring about awareness, it'll be of great help if you could shed some light on the what ifs, just a quick run through about how to deal with the stage 1 part of the treatment, how it is so much easier, that may help relieve the stress and the anxiety. It'll help us women to be more brave, pushing ourselves to come forward to learn more about this self-examination methods and the early markers of detection. So Flow is all about women empowerment, working at all levels to ensure the wellness and health of our friends. And what better way to empower ourselves than to keep our fitness in check. So today it's nice to see women making an effort to stay fit. We find so many women making time for working out in the gym, doing yoga, going on a healthy diet, seeing the nutritionist, and so on. So similarly, I'm sure with all these initiatives, initiatives like this that's taken up at CanStop, women will begin to take care of their health as well, and it will soon become an integral part of our everyday life. So once again, thank you for this opportunity. Flow Chennai is pleased to be a part of this important women-centric initiative. So let us empower ourselves by taking care of our health, and I end by reminding myself and all of you to not take good health for granted. It is truly an underrated blessing. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, madam. That was, in fact, a very wonderful message conveyed in a very beautiful manner. I thought you were very good at designing saris, but you can even put across message so beautifully. Can I add something to it? I think it's also the responsibility of the men at home to make sure the women is taken care of. No, because when they say complain to the husband or whoever's at home, they say, okay, fine, this is something small, we'll wait. I think that attitude should change. Because not always the women come out to the hospital on herself. It's the men who have to accompany them. So I take this opportunity to convey to the men folks in this forum to please respect or listen or consider the complaints that your wife or sister or mom would tell, and take it seriously, because they need to go to the next level. So I think your help and support is definitely important. Thank you, madam. Thank you once again. We now invite Ms. Jayanti, Javanti, sorry, madam. We now invite Mrs. Javanti, who's the president of InnoWheel Club of Madras, a passionate teacher, editor, writer, academician who plays an active role in social organizations. She was the president of International Women Association Chennai for 2000 and 2001. And now she's currently the president of the InnoWheel Club of Madras, where she's been since the year 2014. Over to Ms. Javanti.
Thank you for that introduction. And thank you to CanStop and Dr. Vijay Bharati Rangarajan for inviting the InnoWheel Club of Madras to join this event, and for me to say a few words as well. I'd like to say that breast cancer is by far among the many cancers that affect women. Breast cancer seems to be the most prevalent, and therefore more women are succumbing to breast cancer, and of late, younger women are also being affected. People with a history of family history of breast cancer should be particularly careful in self-examination, getting a checkup, going for periodic checkups, and seeing that they are not affected, because early detection certainly helps in better treatment and early recovery as well. Now, CanStop is doing an admirable job in taking this message across the city and beyond, spreading awareness about breast cancer and making people aware that the sooner you detect it, the better your recovery, the better the treatment. Thank you, CanStop. And we are proud to be associated with CanStop, having done a couple of projects with them and hoping to continue this relationship. I have seen a family where generation after generation, they have been affected by breast cancer, the same type of cancer over and over again. Not only does that individual suffer, but the whole process, the treatment, the pain, the suffering the patient undergoes is also transferred to the entire family. Jayashree Ravi, the speaker just before me, did say it's not just the woman's responsibility, but the family should also take part in her care and push her sometimes. Please go and have that checkup. That is very true. Women are very, very hesitant to speak about their health issues, very hesitant to consult a doctor, and seldom go there alone as well. But it is time. We are all, as we speak, saying we are empowered women. So let's empower more women. Spread the message of awareness to them. Take this message to more people. Self-examine, have a checkup, start taking care of yourself. Thank you for this opportunity to be present at this panel discussion, and looking forward to taking home many more tips on self-care. Thank you, and a special welcome to members of the Inner Wheel Club of Madras who are present here today, and to all the others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam. A well-noted point, family history of breast cancer. I think every speaker or every guest today have given us wonderful messages, and everybody has some key point to convey to the audience here. So again, emphasis on family history. When there is a family member directed with breast cancer, I think the other women in the family have to be more cautious than the other ladies who do not have a family history. Well taken point, madam. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mrs. Sudha Murgai, the president of Cancer Care India. I invite her to share a few thoughts with us. Mrs. Sudha.
Welcome, Sudha. I think she is actually a real thriver. Please share some thoughts. You're muted.
Mrs. Sudha?
She's muted.
Can you hear
yes.
me now?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes. Please.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. And it's a pleasure to be here and meet so many new people, listen to them and listen to their ideas. But unfortunately, I was not told that I was one of the speakers.
You were not.
But
You're a special
Just say a
guest,
few
madam.
words.
Very, very special guest.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I very strongly feel that we must have self-examination, all of us, every month, once a month. We all know how to go about it. Otherwise, we should be told, we should teach everyone, all the ladies, how to do self-examination, because this is what saved my life. That's why I'm always talking about this, because had I not been regularly doing self-examination, my life may not have been saved. So the moment I got to know that I have a little growth on my breast, I immediately went to the doctor, and the doctor was also kind enough to examine properly. And there's something I would want to share with you all. You see, when I went for my mammogram, the first mammogram showed nothing. That it said I'm fine, no problem. Then the doctor was somehow not very convinced. So he said, ma'am, take another mammogram on a different machine. So I went to the different mammogram machine. I took the mammogram. Again, there was no sign. But I don't know, it was what came into the doctor's mind, or his, the doctors know when they feel a lump, they probably can make out that there's something there. And the third time I did ultrasound. And after the ultrasound, only I got to know that there was a growth. And it was then after the biopsy that it was cancer. So, we have to be so careful about the diagnosis. And had the doctor not insisted, and after the first mammogram, I would have come back home and feeling very happy that all is well and no problem at all. So this is one message, I want that all of us who are into breast cancer awareness, that we find out ways and we, make sure that the proper examination is done so that we can catch the cancer if it's there, and the patient can go in for further treatment, and early detection saves many precious lives. That's the message we are always passing on to everyone. And I think, you see, these certain points, like I was very happy to hear, which is that it can be, passed from generation to generation, because I'm not very sure, because sometimes one gets to know that it may be just a small percentage only, and not necessary that, if a mother has it, then the daughter will have it. But I think we should still be very, very careful about that. If it is in the family history, we should be very careful, and we should get our regular checkups done. And these are just some of the points that came to my mind right now. And thank you so much for having me here. And I'm sure the next time I'll come all ready with all strong points.
No, you've given us all the strong points.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me over.
Thank you, madam. Definitely valid points, madam. Self-breast examination, how many ever times you say, it really makes a lot of importance and impact.
Yes.
And I think it's not just once that you do and forget for the rest of your life. It should be very systematic and every month. See, I think that's one more thing I would like to add on, because people do it and then they forget for the next year. So it's not like that. Every month you should do it, probably or preferably after the menses. So the breast is not too tense or tender, and you're able to pick up, because very small nodules are easily missed out. So it should be very systematic and organized so that you are able to pick up even the smallest nodule with the proper palpation, and regularly you should do it. And especially with people who have family history of breast cancers, I think they should do it every month. They can't skip on it. And if not, of course, the doctor can do the same for them. Thank you very much, madam. It was a pleasure having you here with us. And
Thank you so much.
thanks for sharing your valid points with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to our panel discussion. And on the panel, we have three panelists, Dr. Pritika Chari, Dr. Jagdish Chandra Bose, and Mrs. Madhumati. First, I invite Dr. Pritika Chari, who's a qualified neurologist and neurosurgeon, who has vast experience in managing patients with various neurological disorders. Creative Karma is a brainchild of Dr. Pritika Chari to make people lead better and happier lives. It is facilitated by Wealth and Wellness Solutions. Through Creative Karma, Dr. Pritika Chari uses the knowledge of neuro-linguistic programming, image consulting, training skill, and soft skills to enable a person to be their best in every sphere of their lives. Welcome to our panel, madam. Madam, are you there? Can you?
Yeah.
Muted.
Namaste. Thank you for the. Do I just
Welcome,
go
madam.
ahead
Welcome
and
to the panel. Yeah.
No. Are we going to talk one after the other, or shall I just go ahead because I have a PPT? Is that okay? Or is it going to be question answer? You tell me what.
Whatever, madam. You can share your PPT, and then we can also have some questions.
Okay, because this I'll go through this because a little bit of science, it's very difficult if you don't have images.
Okay, madam.
To understand.
Okay. In the audience, if anybody's got some questions, you can type it in the chat box. We can also have take some time to discuss with the panelists or the guests at the end of the program.
It won't take very long. I'll guarantee you will be run through it. So good evening to everybody. Thank you, Vijaya, for including me in your program every year. It's a pleasure always to be part of such initiatives and to help others with some of the little things that we have learned in our lives, which has helped us. Because when we were helpless and having problems, so many people helped us. And most people, when they are diagnosed with cancer, they feel stressed, they feel alone, they feel at a loss, they are worried, overwhelmed, isolated, scared, confused, frightened. So these emotions, what I would like to emphasize is that when they checked out what is the most important emotion that people with cancer in a survey, they found that anxiety was the most important emotion. Next came fear and sadness, and then depression. Other feelings of hopelessness, etc., came way down. So what it means is this anxiety can actually be allayed with information. And that is where such initiatives of awareness programs, when they enlighten the person on what the cancer is, why it came, how to handle it, the fear goes away. And if the fear goes away, the sadness also goes away. And depression doesn't necessarily have to happen. But in spite of that, many people feel frustrated. They feel angry. Why me? What did I do wrong for me to get it? Just understand that cancer is something like having a cold even. It can happen to anybody. There is no why me about it. And there's nothing that you did to deserve it as a punishment or anything like that. See, we know that emotions have a bodily representation. These are heat maps. If you look here, you can see what all parts of your body really get very hot during anger. And you can see, look at love. When you have love instead of anger, your whole body is filled with a positive emotion and positive vibration. So it's very important for us to keep this vibration and to try and let go of all the other kinds of vibration. Look at happiness. Happiness actually infuses vibration, good vibrations into the entire body. So we have to also understand that there are associations which have been found. This is not universally believed in, but that certain emotions and certain emotional feelings like guilt, like fear, etc., can be associated with more incidence of cancer in certain organs. So what happens when we make a diagnosis of cancer? The first thing is, when you have a diagnosis, you have a cancer, it's like a trauma, like days. You get into a, you're just immobile. There is the flight, fright, and freeze. So we freeze. We are sort of paralyzed. Oh my God, this is happening to me. And you are unable to process the data. You're unable to process the emotions. So at this stage, very often it's necessary for us to settle down, sit quietly, think about it, discuss with our family, and then get to the next stage of understanding the cancer. When people attempt to understand the cancer, they are overwhelmed. Now, a lot of new information is given by the doctor. They'll give you treatment options, treatment choices, tell you series of things that have to be done, etc. So this has to be done by us, the healthcare professional, in a very phased and in a very simplified manner, so that we don't overwhelm our patients. Once the options, treatment options are given for the patient and the family, the treatment choices also create insecurity, because they're afraid that they may make the wrong choice. Am I choosing the right kind of treatment? Am I choosing the right doctor? Am I choosing the right institution? Now, this is very expensive. This is cheaper. I can't afford the costlier treatment. If I choose the cheaper treatment, is it going to be something that will happen to me because I chose it? So all of these create insecurity, and there's a fear of the unknown. When it comes to the actual treatment itself, usually it's chemoradiation and surgery. Then you get a anxiety about life disruption. In my case, my cancer, I had a cancer rectum diagnosed grade 3 in December 2016. In my case, it was detected during a routine master health checkup. I had some symptoms. I asked for some additional tests. I suspected something may be wrong because my hemoglobin had dropped to 7.8 and there was no real reason. I was experiencing profound fatigue. And when I was given the diagnosis of the cancer, I was not afraid of having got cancer. I was not afraid even of dying. What I was afraid was, I'm a single woman, I live alone. I have 2 sisters whose health is not as good as mine is. And who's going to help me through this disruption in my life? Who's going to help me when I am vomiting after a chemotherapy or a radiation? Who's going to accompany me to the doctor? So these were the things which were worrying me. So if I can go through that at my level, I can imagine what all of others could go through. And then we also worry about the treatment side effects. But the best part of the whole thing is after the treatment is over, which is what I'm now enjoying. It's elation. There's a little bit of fear because recurrence is a typical feature of cancer. So every time we go for our follow-up checkup, you get a little frightened. Okay, you may not be as fit as you used to be. You may get tired more easily. Your finances may have taken a pretty big hit. It was quite an expensive proposition. So it's all right. But the whole aim of the thing is that we must aim to get back. We have to make the comeback much more powerful than the setback. And in the middle of all this frustration, anger, everything, we have to learn to smile. We have to learn to look at the good in everything. Now, in the brain, we have the front of the brain, which takes care of our rational thinking. So what can I learn from this? So you go through your cancer experience, you can learn so many lessons. I've learned tons of lessons in that. First thing is, I prioritized with my cancer and the pandemic, what is really important in my life, what really matters. And the emotional brain, which is here, is asking, am I loved? Am I loving? Do I have good emotions? Do I have a healthy emotional state? The brainstem, or the lower portion, which is the primitive brain, is, am I safe? So the job of the survival brain is to keep you safe. But safe is not the right option sometimes when you have to take a little bit of risk. And then what happens? The emotional state, the limbic system, will tell you, help you to take a little risk. But when you take a risk, you're doing it in a very reactive state. So what we need to do is allow the executive brain or the prefrontal or the frontal brain to teach us what can we get out of this and remain well and positive. So because in general, all of us are either avoiding pain or seeking pleasure. This is the brain's motivational system. And also the brain tries to conserve energy. It likes to do things as efficiently as possible. And we have a reward system, which needs to be encouraged and taken care of in everything that we do. So we've got this part of the brain called the amygdala. So what it can do sometimes, when an experience we are going through, the amygdala can hijack. It can be in the reactive state. It'll remember all the bad things. It's the job of the amygdala is to keep you safe. But sometimes you have to cross that. And that is when you must allow the upper brain or the rational brain to quieten the amygdala and become proactive. Remember that all of us are energy beings. We have high vibrational energy. Understand that when you're in a suffering mode or you're in a getting by mode, your energy is very low. The minute you start going with the flow and the minute you start raising your vibration, you will find that there is enlightenment, peace, joy, and love in your life. There is something called the Abraham Hicks Emotional Guidance Scale. And the idea is, if you're somewhere here, not to go into a downward spiral, but to keep bringing positive emotions and keep going in an upward spiral. So there are 22 emotions he talks about. So how can we avoid amygdala hijack? Be aware, calm down, take control, engage your reasoning brain. Be mindful of bias, because bias is sometimes we fall into the most easy way of thinking. Consciously lift your attention away from the negative into the positive and make connections, not only within yourself, but with everybody else around you who's willing to help. Because hope is the end result of an emotional process. And life is only as good as your mindset. So you need to move. Instead of being a victim or a survivor, you have to move not only to be a thriver, but to be an inspirer. Because we need to have the growth mindset and we need to get out of the victim mentality. And healing begins only when you shed the victim mentality. So when you're a victim mentality, you think things are beyond your control. You blame other people. You blame circumstances. You feel regret over the past. You keep seeking people to validate your emotions. You are strong and you have the courage to overcome anything. So you can decide to be a victim of cancer or a survivor of cancer. It's a mindset. So you need to reset, realign, refocus, and get into what is called as possibility thinking. And when you get into possibility thinking, the brain enjoys it. It creates pathways, and the neuroplasticity of the brain will really make you, lift you up and give you the strength to carry on. So start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible. And you'll find that suddenly you're doing the impossible. I can vouch for that myself, because when I started a digital journey 2 years ago, I was not sure I could do it. But now I'm doing all kinds of things and I'm very happy. And I think sometimes it's better to take the approach to all these things like a child would. Have you seen children? They carry things beyond their capacity. They do things, they take risks. They do things which they probably cannot handle, but yet they achieve it. And I think if we take that attitude towards life, we can do anything we really want to do. So when you're thriving and you're having resilience, you see there are ways you can succumb, you can survive with limitation, you can bounce back, and you can thrive. And here we have had examples of people who are thriving. So what are the indicators of thriving? Be grateful for what you have. That's the first thing. There's so much we don't have, but remind yourself about what you have. Take care of yourself, take care of people around you. Remember that your family loves you, and when you're going through pain, they go through pain as well. So understand, don't be rough with them. Sometimes we vent out our emotions on our family. Understand that they're also having a hard time trying to do the things for you. So connection, contemplation, character, confidence, courage and challenge, competence and contribution. remember, no matter how much suffering you're going through, you can always help somebody else. So focus on what lessons you have learned and give them to others. Share them. Your illness doesn't define you, your strength and courage does. So get into an inspiring mindset. And if you're able to do what you do, no matter what it is, with true love and true integrity, you become a true inspiration. And be your own kind of beautiful. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Tighten your ponytail, try again. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be amazing. You're kind, you're smart, you're important. And never forget that. So we sometimes don't know how strong we are unless we have no other choice but to be strong. And that's what happens when we get diagnosed with a cancer. So I want people to look at me and say, because of you, I didn't give up. So be an inspiration. You become the inspiration. And remember, you always have the freedom of choice. Freedom is realizing that you have a choice. So make a happy choice or a sad choice. And that secret for freedom is courage. So everything happens at a mental level before it manifests physically. I believe I brought the cancer upon myself because I had a very negative emotion state. I had a lot of things going wrong in my life in 2016. And I believe that I brought the cancer upon myself. So I said, if I can bring it on, I can get rid of it. So make the comeback better than the setback. And remember, to have a comeback, you must first have a setback. So don't curse the setback. Understand that because of that, you're actually growing stronger and you're becoming better. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live a life you're excited about. And don't let anyone make you forget that. So that was the presentation part of it. You can carry on asking me what questions you need to ask.
Madam, I'm spellbound. I don't have any questions. I give up. That was an awesome presentation and I'm totally stuck. My brain is gone. Hibernation. You have covered almost everything. You've covered the emotion part of it. You've covered the neurological aspects of it. And you've covered how to be strong and how to be inspiring. What more should I ask you?
Okay,
thanks, madam. Thanks a lot. That was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. If there are any
Dr.
questions
Sivagami,
from the audience.
sorry, I think there's a question from Indra. She's raised her hand. Maybe she'd like to ask something.
You can ask.
Go ahead, Indra.
Yes, thanks, Vijaya. And it was brilliant, Dr. Pritika Acharya. I'm Indra Subramaniam, Yoga Girlish Laboratory. Hi. And it was just brilliant. And mind controls the body. This is the substance of Bhagavad Gita, which you have very beautifully explained now. You mentioned that you got to know about it when your hemoglobin level went down. Thanks. And will you please, for the benefit of the other non-medicos here, explain a little more about how there are different tests for different cancers, like for lung cancer, there's a different blood test, for blood cancer, for liver cancer, for breast cancer.
I think Dr. Bose is going to continue to give more on the medical side.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Vijaya, and thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Go
ahead.
Wonderful, madam. From a neurological perspective, that was definitely a mind-blowing presentation. I should put it that way. You covered the mind, and so that was definitely a mind-blowing presentation. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you, madam.
I have to thank you all for giving me the opportunity.
It's our pleasure, madam.
And I have decided, like I said, never to be a victim. I was a survivor for a while. Then I went into thriver mode and I decided I'll be in inspirer mode.
Inspiration, yeah. Thanks, madam. That's wonderful of you. Thank you so much. It's our pleasure. We now move on to the next panelist. We heard it from the neurologist. Now we shall hear it from the surgical oncologist. Cancers, the first problem with cancers is not that the disease itself is depressing. The treatment is also depressing. The chemotherapy, the radiotherapy, not only a financial burden, it also ruins the health. So I think the treatment of cancer also is something which we really have to look into, which we have to overcome, looking into all the aspects of cancer therapies. Well, to discuss regarding the other aspects of cancer apart from the mind, which we already had an extensive talk. We have with us Dr. S. Jagdish Chandra Bose, who's the professor and head of the Department of Surgical Oncology at SRMC Chennai. He's also the visiting onco consultant at SMF, Sundaram Medical Foundation, and he's also the visiting onco consultant at GVN Institute of Oncology and GVN Hospitals, Trichy. Welcome to the panel, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Welcome,
Right.
sir. Yeah. You like to share something, or shall I start asking you a few
Please
questions?
start, because I think
Okay, we're already late. Nothing. So when I went through your CV, I saw you had been working in Tanjore and Trichy and Chennai. So you have a person who's been going around across the urban and rural areas. So I think you'll be the right person to tell us, is there any difference in cancer incidence in the urban population and the rural population? And if
Right.
so, why?
correct. So all the statistics tell us that there is definitely a difference between the rural and the urban population when
Okay,
we do
which one
the
is more?
statistics, right? Especially the breast cancer incidence, if you take, in the rural India, it's reported around 4.8%, whereas in the urban India, it is around 10%, right? It's almost double, right?
Doubled.
So why is it so? Basically, it's related to the lifestyle of the people, right? So, the lifestyle of the people in the rural India may have some protective effects, in the sense, the food which they take, the physical activity they put in are much more when compared with the urban India. So this, as you know, is one of the most important risk factors which is to be established in breast cancer. So especially the younger women who are more into sedentary work, you call them as couch potatoes, like you just lie down on the couch, you relax at home, you don't want to strain hard, right? You don't do any physical activity, but you are overweight, and sometimes you are even obese, right? So this is one of the most important factors which are relating to the breast cancer right now. So we know very well that breast cancer is definitely related to multiple factors. It's not a single factor which would precipitate a breast cancer. So all that matters is that in a breast cancer, we need to consider all the factors into consideration. So if you take a woman suffering from a breast cancer, it is not that the physical activity alone matters, or the overweight or the obesity alone matters. There are hereditary factors, there are some changeable factors, there are some unchangeable factors which can act in the woman. So it is a multifactorial disease. And so if you generally take the rural population, they have certain protective effects. So they are nutritionally not that very high when considered from the urban population, who take more processed food and more well-prepared food, right? So they take more unprocessed food. And so they have a little bit more physical activity than the urban population. So definitely the risk of rural India is much lower when compared with the urban India. Thank you.
We also see overall an increase in case than what was in the previous decade. So what additionally has happened?
Correct. True. Very true. Because what is happening here is that you see in the 1975, the breast cancer incidence was affecting 1 in 25 women. But right now, we see that the incidence has gone down to 1 in 10 women, and it might increase up to 1 in 8 in the near future. So why is it so? This is basically because the race has not changed. The women have not changed, right?
Yeah, that's why. Why is it
Same,
increasing?
right? Okay. But what is happening is we have changed our lifestyle, we have changed our diet, we have modified so many things. And as Dr. Pritika Bhattacharya was just mentioning, the stress factor of the women has changed quite a bit. There is more night work. Women are taking up more competitive jobs, right? So the stress is more. People are trying to compete with everything. So you don't know what you're competing for. Still, you keep competing. So you're not happy with what you have. The gratitude of happiness doesn't lie. So, and these all are factors which would definitely increase the incidence of breast cancer.
Sir, actually, breast cancer ranks #1, right? If I'm right, among the women.
Very true.
Yeah, but as an obstet or gynecologist, what I have seen is we have an increase in incidence of endometrial cancers, that is uterine cancers, compared to cervical cancers. So
Right.
I felt like, was it because of the cervical cancer vaccines that are available, which has reduced incidence of cervical cancer? So we don't have a vaccine for the breast cancer. Is it anything like that?
Okay, no, that's a very good question, but I don't think cervical cancer has gone down because of the vaccine. This is basically because of the hygiene that people have become better, and the cervical cancer incidence has gone down. But the endometrial cancer incidence has gone up because of the estrogenic stimulus. You know that
Yeah,
both breast cancer,
infertility
both the
and,
breast and the endometrial cancer are
stimulating the
basically
endometrium.
because of the uninterrupted estrogenic stimulation. So you see that because of the uninterrupted estrogenic stimulation is what you have an increase in the breast cancer and the cancers of the endometrium, right? So as rightly put up, we have two types of estrogens which are secreted in the body. One we have is a peripheral estrogen, which comes from the body fat, and the other one is from your ovaries. If you take the premenopausal women who are consuming a lot of carbohydrates, they have a lot of fat deposited in the central part of their body. And that contributes to the peripheral estrogen as well. And this is probably the cause for the rise in triple negative breast cancers, which is because of the high carb diet which they take. And there is an increase in the insulin levels in the body. So do you think that carbohydrates will not produce cancer? Yes, it can produce. So if you take a high carb in your diet, it gets converted into fat, gets deposited in the central part of your body, and that gets converted into estrogen, and that acts as a stimulating factor for inducing the breast cancers. So we know that central obesity is one of the most important causes for an increase in estrogen levels relating to the breast cancer. So in premenopausal women, we have to be very careful that we take less carbohydrates. It's not the fat which is harmful. We know that the carbohydrates are more harmful. So consume less of carbohydrates. You will do definitely better.
So obesity by and large is good for all aspects. And when it comes to cancer, I think you have laid emphasis that it also reduces incidence of cancer, or at least it pushes. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. So that's a good valid point. Obesity plays a very important role in predisposing to cancer. So I think women should be conscious on her diet and physique to avoid this risk. Thank you, sir. Another question from the obstetrician perspective. What about your experience on pregnancy with breast cancer?
Right.
Do you investigate them, or mammogram and all that? Of course, we can't do.
1 in 3,000
evaluating in a short.
You have pregnancies, and 1 in 3,000 pregnancies you can encounter a breast cancer. That will be the incidence of breast cancer in a pregnancy, right? Of course, you know very well, to detect a breast cancer in pregnancy is going to be really very tough. You can't make a very early diagnosis because the breasts are engorged, and it's very difficult to diagnose a lump when a patient is pregnant. But all that same, right? If you diagnose a cancer, it is not that you cannot treat them. We can still treat them. We have to use the right modalities. For example, surgical modality can be used at any step. But if you want to use chemotherapy or radiation, radiation is almost not given during the stages of pregnancy, but chemotherapy can be used after the first trimester.
Okay.
So once the organogenesis is done, you can still go ahead with chemotherapy. So it's not that once a patient is diagnosed in pregnancy with a breast cancer, you have to undergo a termination. No, it's not so. It's not that you have to terminate the pregnancy. It depends upon what trimester the patient is and what sort of a stage she is in before deciding what will be the best modality of care for her. So you can still treat people. Of course, the cancer behaves in a little aggressive way. That is, of course, there in pregnancy because of the hormonic influence. But it is always possible to treat them in a much more effective way if you diagnose them at the right stage.
Suppose they've undergone a lumpectomy or something, can they lactate, sir? Will they be able to lactation?
Your breast conservation surgery can also be done, and still the patient can lactate. It's not possible that the affected breast cannot lactate. It depends upon the stage. That's why I said it depends upon the stage, how far it has affected the breast tissue and how much it has affected the breast tissue. If it has affected the breast tissue to a very large extent, then naturally it is not possible. But if it has affected only to a very small extent, you have made a early diagnosis, it is still possible to continue lactation, and there is nothing wrong in it, right?
So I request you to also answer our Rotarian Mrs. Indira's question on how to go about doing the tests for the different cancers and the treatment.
Correct. Now, you know that cancer is diagnosed by what is called as a triple assessment. So the triple assessment starts with a proper clinical examination. And then we have the radiological examination, which will include the various tests, which start with a mammogram, an ultrasound, an MRI. Based on the need of the patient, we need to do the tests. I think somewhere in the panel, they were telling me that the breast cancer was not diagnosed easily by the mammogram. It is quite possible. When you have a glandular breast, you need to do an MRI, and the triple negative cancers are often diagnosed only with the MRI. So MRI of the breast may be a useful tool in young women and people who have a glandular breast to diagnose the breast cancer. And then we need to stage the disease. For staging the disease, we need to do certain tests to see whether it has affected the other organs. And then after you stage the disease, we do what is called as molecular tests now to further classify the disease and find out which treatment will be useful for them upfront, whether to start them on chemotherapy upfront, or whether to start them on hormone therapy upfront, or whether to do the surgery first. So all these tests have to be done to stage and molecular categorize the patient, risk stratify the patient, and then do the proper treatment. So this treatment as such is a multimodal approach where you have surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, hormone therapy, all integrated together and put in together to give the women the best chances of survival. Now, if you diagnose the breast cancer early, there is a very important point that you can even conserve the breast. You don't have to lose the breast. So if you diagnose the breast cancer early, you can conserve the breast. Organ conservation is fully possible, and the patient can go back to her normal way of life, maintain her femininity and the social status. So this is very important because losing the breast is not anymore needed in most of the stages of breast cancer. We can give still chemotherapy, downsize the lesion, and consider them for breast conservation whenever it's possible. So breast conservation is possible if the cancer is diagnosed early. And this emphasis has to be done because most women think that once you have a cancer in the breast has to be removed. It is not so anymore. And once you give chemotherapy, downsize it, you can still do a breast conservation in most of the women. I would say almost 60 to 70% of the women, if diagnosed early, can have a breast conservation. And it is still possible. So it is not that all the stages of breast cancer have equal cure rates. We know when diagnosed early, you can have something like 90 to 95% cure rates. And if you have a very advanced disease, the cure rates will drop down. So unless you stratify and risk stratify these patients, we cannot treat them in a very effective way. So all treatment modalities have to be used in an effective way, in an appropriate way, in a personalized manner, based on the individual patient needs. It is not that you can do all the treatment in everybody based on the individual stages. You have to effectively give the same treatment in a possible way at the right timing. So that is also very important. So the same way, we cannot propagate the treatment what was done for Angelina Jolie in India. No, we cannot do that. So not every woman cannot have a bilateral mastectomy just because somebody is diagnosed in the family with a breast cancer. So that is also not possible. So we have to personalize the treatment. It is not possible to do the treatment which is done abroad to every woman in India because our social status, our need, and our desire varies with the women. So we'll have to attend to the women's need and then modify the treatment and give it more effectively. And I think that is the way we should go about treating every woman with cancer. And we should not panic. There is no need to panic with breast cancer. We can always treat them very effectively. So thank you very much.
Yeah, that's why, like when a woman has a breast cancer, the first thing comes to her mind that she will lose her breast, you know. Yeah. So that's another thing of depression for them because they feel the entire breast is going to be lost. But that's a very good message that you're told that it's not going to be a complete removal of the breast. It can be just a lumpectomy where you remove the lump and follow it up depending on the condition, depending on the stage of the disease. Yeah. So that's again a very important message which we have to convey to the woman and reassure her that her breast will be restored. It will not be removed and she doesn't have to take herself away from treatment for the sake of fear that she may lose her breast. That's a very good message, sir. So you said like mammogram, ultrasound, and MRI are all good methods. So which you think is appropriate according to the age, or
Right.
because we can't do mammogram for young people, the radiation exposure is too much. So I think it's important for the public to know which is the best kind of screening method. If they have a choice of an ultrasound or mammogram and MRI, who will choose what?
Right. So the most important point here is we nowadays consider what is called as risk stratification, and we have certain tables to include women of high risk into certain investigations like MRI right from the beginning. For example, if you say that you are BRCA positive, you have a BRCA positivity in your family, then we would say that the right investigation is the MRI of the breast. So you should have a risk stratification at the age of 30 years.
30.
Yeah, the risk stratification starts at 30 years of age.
Okay.
And the breast self-examination starts at the age of 30 years. And then we try to formulate what is good for an individual patient. Now, in the earlier ages, when the breast is glandular, mammogram is not a useful investigation. You should either resort to ultrasound of the breast, which is the most simplest, or other forms of testing like, tactile testing, elastogram, and things like that. But in the normal sense, any woman who is 40 and above should undergo a mammogram.
Okay.
Right? So that is the message.
Yes,
After 40 years, you need to have a mammogram. If you have 3 consecutive normal mammograms, you can have a mammogram once in 3 years. Otherwise, a mammogram every year is mandatory. After 50 years, a mammogram is more useful because the breasts are more fatty and mammograms are more useful after 50 years. MRI is the solving modality whenever you have any doubts in mammogram or when the breasts are very glandular. So if you have a very glandular breast, you have a very high risk, MRI is the modality of choice. There is no doubt about it, right? So have I made it clear, right?
Definitely, sir. Very, very clear message, because see, this is one of the common questions which women would always want to know, whether to go for an MRI, an ultrasound, a mammogram, and each has a radiation.
Timing of this investigation also is important. So if you have your cycles, preferably do the mammogram or the MRI on the 5th day of your cycle. It's very important that that is the best time to do your investigation.
True, very true. Thank you so much. I think I can go on asking you questions and you're going to enlighten us throughout the day, but we don't have time, so I have to wind up with this.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yes, madam, please.
See, I said when you have a negative emotion, how you can make it into a positive one. So if you're diagnosed with breast cancer, instead of worrying about losing the breast and feeling bad about that, think of it that it is an organ which is disposable. No, if you get cancer in the lung, things are very bad. You have to breathe every day. I got in the rectum. You have to evacuate every day. Okay. Yeah, it's in an organ which is disposable. So don't lose heart. You can find the positive in anything negative even.
Madam, another thing you can always reconstruct it. That is also something
that's what I'm
which
saying.
women should know.
I don't want people, because you all emphasize that it's not a big deal. You have to look at it that way.
Positive approach. Thanks, madam. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I think it's been very, very informative. You've given us all the very important valid points with regards to breast cancer, about obesity, lifestyle modification, the food habits, and the family history, how it plays a role, and what are the investigatory modalities, who should do what, and how we go about with it. I'm really, really happy to have you here with us. It was really a wonderful session.
Thank the SMF Foundation and all the other organizations who have taken part in this noble cause. And I should appreciate all my speakers who have taken time and then given us a very good insight into the neurological aspects and the mind, which plays a very important role in the body. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think we'll have another session exclusively with you for more doubts in case our audience do have a want of time. Thank you so much, sir. We'll now move on to the last panelist for the day, Mrs. Madhumanti. Should I call you a cancer thriver or a conqueror, madam? Rotarian Mohan has introduced
Well.
you as the conqueror, so I will call you that way. You
Okay.
please, she's going to share with us her journey with cancer and the transformation she underwent during diagnostic treatment and recovery. Following a very rigorous allopathic treatment, she's been supplemented with nutrition program, and she followed a solid and deep meditation program that allowed her to flower as a thriver and now as a conqueror. In today's session, she serves as a thriver and hopes to encourage others to look at the diagnosis and recovery from cancer in a holistic way, in a space of enablement, courage, and spiritual growth. Mrs. Madhumati, happy to have you here with us. And as I've introduced you, I think you're going to be focusing more on meditation to us, right?
Well, yeah, that's been my journey. Thanks
Yeah.
a lot, Shivagami, for such a wonderful opportunity that I have today here.
We are happy to have
Thanks
you.
to CanStop. And
Definitely.
it's been really enlightening to hear to the panelists and the guests who spoke before me. And I stand humbled, actually. I don't have a background to speak other than my experience. Well, I'm fortunate to say that I don't have a background of the disease at all. And I was very sure that maybe I will be excluded from the experience of going through it. There could be many out there like me who think that it cannot happen to them.
Please tell us on
Because
the
of-
role meditation, madam,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's what we need to hear
Let me
from you.
get, yes, Shivagami, because when I was diagnosed, this is very important. When I was diagnosed with it, this did not occur to me as to why me. I started my journey from there, which is very uncommon to others. I started meditating at the age of 17. Maybe there was some building up of emotional quotient which already happened in the background. Like Dr. Pritika had shown in that chart, so many steps were avoided for me. They did not exist for me. That fear, anxiety, I did not have to go through. Luckily, I did not go through. So when I was diagnosed with it, what came up to me was looking at the solution, right? When we are detached from the problem, the idea comes to us. And that ability to detach from the problem comes from a very solid faith. This faith that anything that comes to me in life is for my own good. This diagnosis is not a punishment for something that I have done which I shouldn't have done or otherwise. And with this faith that cancer is no longer a death sentence. With these things in the background, I wanted to go about it in a very holistic way. I did not want to leave any opportunity of regret later on that I should have done that perhaps. So when my prognosis was given to me, I had vetted by few people. And when the same was emerged, and on the day of chemo, my mentor and I had a meditation session, after which my mentor had told me that, hey Madhu, this chemo, I said, how should I approach chemo? She said, don't you think it is something like divine nectar coming into your body to cure you of the disease? That is a paradigm shift. I welcomed chemo. I did not resist chemo. I welcomed it prayerfully, saying that you are entering my body to make me healthy, restore health, instead of saying that you're going to kill my healthy cells. I could tell my mind that it is helping me restore health. And I should share a very beautiful personal experience when a chemo port was being placed in my body. As I said, the chemo port was placed, I was brought out, I was lying down in the recovery room. Everyone around me were in trauma, panic, and I was calm, steady. For a moment, when I closed my eyes, I felt that every cell in my body was turbulent. In my external poise, there was this immense turbulence. Then I paused for a minute and questioned myself, why is my body in turbulence? Then I realized that there is a foreign object inside me and my body is not comfortable with it. All that I had to do is pause for a moment and tell my body that, hey, this is my friend. This is our friend, which has come inside us to help us deal with our situation now. And within moments, there was calm inside me. This was a very telling experience for me as to how we can connect with our body by being an observer to it. And this had helped me immensely in the entire journey. What is meditation? Meditation is thinking continuously about a thing. So how different is this meditation which I do? This is a heart-based meditation where we settle into the source of energy which is already present in each of our hearts. When you tap into that energy, there is a different opening. You are definitely not looking at a situation in a very narrow way. Like you're not looking at cancer alone as a disease, the threat of cancer with regards to your life, with regards to your recovery. You are somewhere accepting that there is existence beyond this. So even if death happens, say what if you don't survive? There is that assurance that nothing is going to collapse around you. There is a higher purpose to life than just simply living it the way we usually live. And with this repeated meditation sessions, you are able to, acceptance, as they say, is a very big step in any situation. And acceptance doesn't come naturally. It is an effort which goes in accepting the situation. Imagine acceptance being natural. Then comes cheerful acceptance. It doesn't mean that cheerful acceptance is not like you're laughing, you're smiling and you're saying that. Cheerful acceptance is saying, okay, I'm here and I have so many options and I am sure that I will get there if that is good for me. And this everyday meditation sessions that I had, those series helped me cope with every new situation that was standing for me there. Cancer treatment, they said I was diagnosed at the age of 45. They said that we are going to be very aggressive with you in treatment. We can't do anything but aggressive. So this aggressive treatment had a lot of repercussions. You're backed by your family. And many times, as Pritika said, more than you see that your family is troubled, what they are in agony. But in my situation, when I started with that acceptance and all, we had a very light atmosphere around us in our journey. Me, my caregivers, I had my children. There was a lot of peace around. I think that aided to recovery and even withstanding and going through the treatment. Also, I resorted to, as it was mentioned, to a complete nutrition plan. I subscribed to Luke Coutinho. His team was wonderful. These minute, simple kitchen ingredients made enormous difference to me on the days of chemo and post. They made sure that my hemoglobin levels never dropped down. I never missed even a single chemo session. There was no stress, there was no anxiety. And why I am saying this nutrition plan is, it is not just about what happens to you during your treatment. It is a learning for life now. It's a transformatory journey. And to appreciate that transformation, I had to stay alert to everything that was offered to me. And unless I was grounded within myself, this learning wouldn't have happened. To deal with the other 23.5 hours, this half hour of meditation that I did helped me stay on the path. Take help from the resources that are available. Like your body gets into extreme fatigue, no matter how positive you stay. That is something which your body is suffering. So at that point in time, no supplement helps you, but your inner strength. You draw energy from within your self, from that unlimited source of energy that is inside of you, and say that that is filling you, and every cell of your body is being energized.
Madam, you're talking about nutrition. What is a specific thing that you would like to tell us? Anything?
Yeah, see, we hear a lot of fads about nutrition, but there is this definitive thing that with insulin levels develop spike in your body, cancer cells multiply. So it's very important to see that your diet does not allow scope for those spikes in your insulin levels. And also that your body is well supported to withstand the harsh impact of chemo on you, right? And your gut health goes for a 6 because it is the fast multiplying cells in your gut and your hair follicles. So you lose hair for sure. Yeah. And also to, and also to protect your gut. Many people complain about, irritated GI tract during their chemo times. I did not experience any of that at all. 1, because of the nutrition, and 2, because I would diligently go through relaxation sessions just before my chemo starts. And also I would invite it saying that you are my friend helping me to restore health. You know, as they say, everything that you see, 20% is what you see outside, and 80% is in your attitude as to how you have primed up yourself for facing what you have to face. Of course, it is difficult to see yourself from a very healthy, beautiful you to God knows what you would be at the end of it. But surely you will emerge something different, maybe not be what you were, but as Pritika said, it will be you, beautiful you. There is no regret in that. But all that is not external, Shivagami. If it is external, it will drop off at some point in time. Unless you're very strong here. And this strength comes only when you are turning your vision inward. You are not looking at external factors. You are banking on that storehouse inside.
I just have a question.
Yes.
You started meditation at the age of 17.
Yes.
And then you developed cancer only in the later part of life, right? So
I was 45.
Okay. So because you started early, was it easy for you to continue the meditation? I don't think meditation is an easy job for anybody. If you ask me to do it, I don't know if I'll really be able to do. It's very difficult. Now, since you already did meditation, that could have been easy for you to continue after the disease. But if you have been diagnosed with cancer and then you start meditating, I'm sure that is going to be a little difficult. Won't you feel that? Don't you think there will be a difference if you start as a fresher to do meditation after diagnosed with a cancer and then you're trying to overcome it with the kind of a mind deviation?
I think one will appreciate it more after cancer diagnosis when you are in such a mess in your mind, so many things going on, and that relief offered.
That's also difficult, no matter, because already you have a lot of depression, a lot of things running in your mind, and you are someone who has already been doing meditations and you know how to do it and you're tuned to it. So probably it was easy for you to continue after.
Yeah, Shivagami, as I said, you're supported.
Yeah, I think it's also important. That is what one thing she's saying, Madhumati, is that it is just for general health. It is not just for cancer health.
Yeah.
It
For
is
anybody,
just
yeah,
for
relaxes the mind.
daily life to have that kind of inner peace. And I think if we can start doing that for whatever comes across in our lives, it is something that will help us and support us. When you're talking, I'm very much, I remember thinking that cancer just changes everything, yet nothing at all.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
just like, I used to think with my husband that it's an entirely different day to day and everything has changed. Yet day to day, we're doing the same thing and we're going through every day the same, what we have to do with the children and life and work and everything. So I think if we have this kind of inner peace that we can develop, like she said, and like Pritika has mentioned, and I think it's just a very calming effect, not only to the patient, but also to the caregivers. As a caregiver, I feel that, we go through this journey with them. And it's so important that when you do it together and you have that combined peace, then you're a better understanding. And I remember him thinking that it was always very calm. There was no anxiety or fearfulness or this, the ravages of what they say cancer can cause. It was just always a very calming feeling that he had. And the way he was like, I think nutrition is very important. And the mindset is very important. Definitely what Dr. Pritika was saying about mind over matter. I think in everyday life, this is what we have to imbibe and bring it in. And I think when things do happen, we're able to control it, not control it, but we're able to receive it at a better level. And I think this has been an amazing talk by everybody for all your inputs and everything. I thank each and every one of you who have joined us today on discussions with all our panelists and supporters. And Sivagami, thank you for emceeing it, because I don't know if anyone thanks you, but I know you'll do the vote of thanks. But she is actually our OBG doctor at SMF and always very strong and supportive for Can't Stop. And wherever we need that volunteer work, she goes out and gives a lot of talks to a lot of colleges and students. And I think that's the only way. We have to reach out as many as we can. Whether it's a couple at a hand, but I just feel that kind of awareness and the support that we offer each other, it is a community level. It is not any one person that can go through something. And I think if we can help each other at a community level and support, I think that is what we can do best. Thank you all for being with us here today. Sivagami, go ahead with a formal vote of thanks.
Before that, thank you, Sivagami, from all of us, because you did an amazing job.
Yeah, she does a good job.
Madam is.
I would like to say something before we close.
Yes,
Madam.
Madam.
Permission to. I just want to say something which maybe everyone does not believe in, but the moment I surrendered myself to God and I said, God, I'm your child. Please take care of me, good or bad. I take it with complete humility. And after that, I had absolutely no fear in my mind. And I went through the entire treatment. And I must say, spiritualism and your faith in God helps out a lot also. I felt that's my personal feeling.
Madam, that was
I was a little tougher with God. I told him, look here, you put me on this earth to do some work. Right now, you knock me down. If you want me to continue doing your work, get me up. If you feel I've done enough, be with me and support me to the next step.
Yeah, end of the day, we either blame God or thank God. And I think
that was the attitude I took. And once I got better, I knew that I still had more work to do. And that is why I said, I decided I must inspire.
Wonderful.
Not just thrive, but inspire.
Yeah, so definitely this is a finishing touch that we've given to our program today. the spiritual part of it. I think that was one thing we didn't talk, and even that is completed. So I'm really, really happy to have this wonderful session and this wonderful people over here. And it's my duty to formally deliver the vote of thanks. I take this opportunity to thank our panelists, Dr. Pritika Chari, Dr. Jagdish Chandra Bose, Dr. Madhumati, our special guest and guest of honor, Rotarian Sridhar, Mrs. Punita Sridhar, Rotarian Mohan, Mrs. Jayashree Ravi, Ms. Javanti, Ms. Sudha. Thank you very much for being here with us and spending your quality time in spite of your busy schedule, all the dignitaries. And I also take this opportunity to thank the Rotary Club of Madras, District 3232, Fiki Flow Chennai Chapter, Inner Wheel Club of Madras, Cancer Care India, and all of the cancer care organizations who've been a part with us today. Special mention to the students from the various educational institutions who have logged in today, the Rotarians from the Vaishnava College for Women, and I thank the coordinator, Ms. Kamali, and the Rotarian Shesha Sai, and other institutions who have also logged in. I will fail in my duty if I don't thank our medical director, Dr. P.V. Jayashankar, for always being supportive and helping us. Definitely would love to thank our CANSTOP volunteers and team, without whom this program wouldn't have been possible. And last but not the least, definitely a big thank you to our trustee and founder of CANSTOP, Dr. Vijayabharati Rangarajan, who's been the guiding source and leading hand and helping us do all this with her efficient leadership. And thank you very much, madam, for organizing and for helping us organize and guiding us organize this program. And we have a lot more to do, and definitely we'll be a part of the organization and definitely be a part of this wonderful cause. And thank you so much, madam. And once again, thanks to all of you who have logged in today. Thank you. Good evening and have a great weekend, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good to see. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Happy Diwali too.
Happy Diwali to everyone. Yes, absolutely.
Thanks so much to everyone. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for a wonderful session, ma'am. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Rotarian Nagiyoti. I see you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. A lot of learning, and really we will take care accordingly.
I'm glad. Thank you. Let us know in whatever way that anyone has any suggestions or any support that you require through CANSTOP. Definitely, we're there to offer that.
Thank you, Vijaya.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for
Thank you,
including
Javante.
us. It has been a great session. Thank you.
Thank you, Javante. Thank you, everyone.